This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas. Magazine publisher and entrepreneur Judith Mancini is sharing captivating conversations with experts in their field about the latest trends in our ever-changing world to help you become healthy, wealthy, and wise. Judith Mancini Today will spark your interest and inspire you to lead your best life ever. And now, here's Judith.
Judith Mancini Today is sponsored by Basic Brands, Inc., providing the highest quality specialty products in the natural food industry. Visit basicbrandsinc.com and enter JMT15 for your 15% discount on your first order, including their best-selling vitamin E ointment, which helps restore the moisture and elasticity in your skin. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Judith Mancini Today. Some of you just finished your breakfast and your cup of coffee, but I know you on the East Coast are just starting your lunch. Have a glass of wine for me. Okay, so today I want to start right off with the news, and I am researching a lot of what's been going on in Mexico and the border and all of that, but we're going to postpone talking about that until next week when we have a little more information. What I want to start talking about is your money. You know, the Feds raised the interest rate 1/4 point. Now, let me explain to you what this is. They're trying to stop inflation. I don't see how this is going to happen. And they're saying that they may declare a recession in June. Well, some of us already think the recession is here. We'll see. Well, your 1/4 point is going to affect your mortgage if you're going out to look for a house. Let's just take a $350,000 house and a 30-year mortgage. These are all just estimates. Don't hold me to it because things change all the time. Well, right now, you could get, last week, a loan, a mortgage loan, for 3-point-something percent. 3-point-something percent. Now it's going up to something like 6-point-something percent. Do you know what that adds to your mortgage if you're trying to figure out your payments and what you can afford to put down on a house and what you can afford to buy the house for? Because don't forget, you have insurance, property taxes. You probably want to do a little something to the house. Okay, well, it's adding an extra $600 to your mortgage payments, approximately. Just a little bit of budgeting for you there to start your day. Don't mean to get you down. Everything will work out. Just think about those side hustles to add a little extra income to you. All right, now, as far as health goes, this is concerning, but is it really being released to warn us and help us be safe from it? Or is it being released, the news on it, because they want to scare us? You know, that's kind of how SARS, Ebola, COVID-19, they kept hyping it up, and lo and behold, COVID did spread all over. But we pretty much got rid of Ebola and SARS and all fairly fast. Here is what's happening now. There is a fungus out there, a fungus, and it's called Candida auris, A-U-R-I-S. The CDC has said that symptoms are a fever and chills. Your bloodstream could be infected. It infects wounds, and it can infect your ear, which I found a little strange. I don't know, but you know me, I'm not a doctor, And I don't know these things, but it seems to be spreading mostly in hospitals and with older people. So keep your eye on this. I'm not really happy when such a few people have actually died from it, and it's not all over. It is in several states. And that kind of gives me pause because they're saying that it's mostly in hospitals. California is one state that has it. So I would just be cautious, and I would say if I had to go in to have some surgery, something like that in a hospital or an emergency room, have you protected us against this fungus, Candida auris. Candida is a yeast infection, as far as I know. Candida is a culture of things that spread. So nobody seems to know where this came from. Just watch it and don't be scared to death, because I really think one emergency after another on the news is just distracting you from what's going on in the country. And what's going on right now are two things with the Justice Department. One is the TikTok CEO being grilled by the committee, and it's a bipartisan committee, of course. They've got lists and lists of questions. It makes one wonder if they've ever been on TikTok. Now, I'm not a TikTok user, so I think it's more for people that are 30 and under. Maybe there's a few business people on there that seem to say that they get a lot of business from TikTok for their small businesses, and that's probably legitimate. I don't even understand exactly how TikTok works, but I do know it affects teenagers, teen girls, and teen boys, and people up into their 20s and 30s. So what we're saying here in the United States is TikTok is a Chinese company, and it's owned by a Chinese company, not an individual. So we are afraid in this country that they are storing information of the users of TikTok, and that they're trying to indoctrinate the young people with different advertising and different subjects, and storing all of the information on these platforms. I don't understand it. Why are they picking on TikTok? I get the Chinese connection, and China is very much against us. But why did they allow a Chinese company to bring something in like that to the United States if this is so worrisome? And why can't somebody else go out and make another platform that these people would flock to? There's something like 1 billion people in the United States that use it. It seems a little high to me. But that's the number I think I heard today. Now, the other thing about TikTok that I heard is that if you open TikTok in China, use the China version in China, and you open it, the first thing you get are things like the latest science discovery, a lot of math, a lot of indoctrination for their government ideals and ideas. So ours is totally different. You just open TikTok and you're immediately into the social portion of it. Now, the CEO said he was going to put in all sorts of whistles to protect people who are using TikTok all the time. And one of them is anybody under 18 will only be allowed to use TikTok 60 minutes at a time. 60 minutes at a time. I can't even imagine somebody being on social media. I might be on the internet looking at different things, news sites, social media, things where our radio show appears, our podcast. But I couldn't stay on one thing for 60 minutes. Now, this must be how you hook up with people. I know there's sites like Tinder and all that you go on to find dates and all of that, but I don't get it. And I guess that you can advertise your goods on there to be sold. So there's a lot of reasons why TikTok is around. I think it needs a little more exploring before we start banning things in this country, as other nations do. And the CCP is one of the worst at banning things, Chinese Communist Party. So let's find out what's going on. One of the questions was, does TikTok take off any information that somebody is posting about the Uyghurs in China that are being rounded up and sent to labor camps, and a lot of them executed? And he said, the CEO of the American version of TikTok, excuse me, he said he wasn't aware of that. So what do people say under oath? And it is a federal crime to lie to a congressional committee. So I don't know. He seemed to have a lot of answers, and actually the committee seemed to be just about as ignorant of TikTok as I am. So I don't know how much good this committee is going to do, and we'll have to see how this works out. Excuse me. It's one of those days when I'm losing my voice for no reason, and no, I'm not sick. Probably because I was talking too much to my husband this morning over our morning coffee. So there's another thing happening in the Justice Department, and that is DA Bragg in New York is trying to indict former President Trump. And we all know what that's about, being paid off Stormy Daniels, an adult film star. But it is turning out that the grand jury is being excused again today and on standby for tomorrow, because a lot of information has come out in the last 2 days. Lots of emails from Cohen, attorney Cohen, who was Trump's attorney at one point. I remember that Cohen said several years ago, when all of this started, that he paid off Stormy Daniels with his own funds and was trying to get Trump to pay him. Well, none of that happened. So they're trying to say that Trump used campaign funds, which I'm sure he didn't, because nobody in their right mind who wants to be president is going to mess up using campaign funds. Now, maybe some of your lower offices people don't understand all the laws, and they sign papers to run for office, and they just sort of glance at what the rules and regulations are, and they might use campaign funds, as several people did when they were running for office from Black Lives Matter and buying property and homes from campaign funds. And yeah, I guess I'm picking on them because it's broadcast the most in what they have done with their campaign funds and things like that. So interesting things going on in the Justice Department. Now, if DA Bragg does go ahead and indict Trump, of course, he will be the only president ever indicted for something like this. And if they were to charge him with a felony instead of a misdemeanor, he could no longer run for office. So it's a little fishy today, being the second day that the grand jury has been postponed to hear more testimony. And some people think it's because the prosecutor's main witness is former attorney Cohen. So he has definitely changed his story, and we'll have to see how this winds down. So if I were you, when I got home today from doing whatever you're doing, or you're at home, get on the internet and get on some of these news sites and see what's going on with these two DOJ cases. Department of Justice. These are big cases, so that's what's going on with these things, and you should know what's going on. Now, there also was from the CDC, Center for Disease Control, A public service announcement. What? A public service announcement about fentanyl. It is now in a sedative that is basically used for veterinarian uses to calm down horses and things like that. That's called xylazine. That is what people are looking for on the internet. It's all been laced with fentanyl. It's used as a sedative by some adults, even though it's for veterinarians. A public service announcement, but it doesn't tell you anything else about it and where it's being distributed. They just know that they found some of it. So you shouldn't be doing these things. You shouldn't be buying pills and things off the internet. You shouldn't be taking them anyway, because if you get a bad one, I'm telling you, you'll be dead. And it isn't an easy death. I've read articles on how this affects you if you take one of these bad pills with the fentanyl in it, and it's a nasty death. You don't want to die. You don't want to take this. It's not cool. It's not the thing to do. I don't know what's happening in this country, why kids are trying to get Adderall off the internet. Nobody needs to be high like that. You have to go do something at spring break. Do not take any kind of pills that somebody gives you. And you better be darn careful that the guy who's giving you, cute little girl in your bikini, a beer or beer out of a bong hasn't laced it with some kind of drug that may have fentanyl in it. I hate spring break. My kids never went to spring break. They partied probably just in our own city. I don't know. Or spring break was spent with family and we would go places. Mom, why would you do that to me? My friends are going on spring break. Well, too bad you're going with us on spring break. We're taking a family vacation. And many times it was to Mexico. So that was fun. Also, be careful wherever you're going, down to Miami, to beaches here in Southern California, no matter where you're going, to the beaches off of Texas, the same thing can happen there. And you want to be careful what kind of car you get into driving around. Now, I know no kids are listening to my podcast, so I'm speaking to you parents. You've got to warn your kids and be proactive against this. It's very dangerous. Well, to wrap this up, I just want to say something about our president's schedule. He's got the easiest schedule going, far easier than mine so far this week. Excuse me. So far this week, the first 3 days, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, well, he came back, of course, from the beach to the White House, and then his schedule included celebrating the Persian Festival of Spring, I think it is, and that was very lovely of him. But he also met the cast of Ted Losing, I don't even know who this is, and some other very liberal entertainers and celebrities. And he was kind enough to also celebrate Women's History Month. I'm only saying this because I don't know what he does, and most other presidents have pretty heavy schedules with things going on. I know he was just on an airplane flying back, but immediately he went back home to the beach. This was all while Xi and Putin were meeting. And after their meetings, they gave a little press conference, which was very short, at least it was on our news. And they have said that, yes, they came to agreement with a lot of things. One of them was something that will be very big, that will change the culture of the world. And they haven't done anything for 100 years that has changed the culture of the world. The Cultural Revolution in China was a big one. When they burned the books, they executed doctors, teachers, professors, anybody who was intellectual and wrote books. I think I said they burned books. They ended school. Mao made everybody dress the same in the black pajamas. People were starving because the whole economy fell and they were working in the fields, and you were lucky if you got a bowl of rice. And the same thing happened during the Russian Revolution, where they got the czars out of power and actually murdered all of the czar and the family. And yes, I think countries should move along with the times. I don't think they should move towards communism or socialism. This has happened all over the world, and we are really in an upheaval here in the United States. And I want you all to read more and listen to not just the conservative news on Fox and not just the liberal news on CNN and some of the other stations. I want you to listen to both and get both sides of the question. We need to figure this out, and we need to figure it out in a peaceful way. So that's it for the day today on the news, and that's all my opinion. Be sure to make your opinion heard too. Stand up and speak out. Okay, so I tantalized some people today because I said, what do women really want in a man? Now, I'm not talking about teenagers going on their first dates or going to the proms, and I'm not talking about you 20-year-olds where everything is fun and you're just maybe getting into a serious relationship and going to lots of parties and things like that. I'm talking about people that are in their 40s and 50s, 60s, 70s, and even 80s. Once in a while, you'll see where some 80-year-olds or 90-year-olds or even 100-year-old people have found each other in assisted living places, and they end up getting married at the age of 100, 102. So there is something about the male-female relationship that people would like to have a partner. And unfortunately, as we age, two things can happen if you're in a marriage. One of you can pass away and you become a widow or a widower, and the other could be you get a divorce or you separate. And it's always sad. It's more sad for one person than the other, usually, because it's not always a mutual decision. I think it was Gwyneth Paltrow who said that she and her spouse, I can't remember who it was, some celebrity, said they were uncoupling and they were unmarrying. They were not getting a divorce. I thought that was cute. They were trying to make up another name for it. But it could be a sad time. It could be a happy time. But one of the questions that I always get when I'm talking about aging is, what do you want in a man? Well, I'm going to talk about my friends that are 50 and older. Now, first, I'm going to tell you that I had 2 bad marriages. Bad for me, not as bad for them. They were abusive and physically and verbally abusive. So I finally figured out how to get out of my second one. And one of the ways I did it was I took over the company that we mutually owned, made sure I had 50% in it because I actually ran the company. So I was able to exit that financially stable, but many people aren't. And I have found that some of my friends who do get a divorce in their later years are worried about who's going to take care of them and where they're going to live. Well, with the economy the way it is, it scares anybody. Everybody's thinking that now. But I'm specifically talking about women who get divorced, and maybe they've been divorced for a long, long time, and maybe they've been out there since their 50s and now they're in their 70s and they haven't gotten remarried or haven't even dated. Well, there's great dating sites out there now for men and women in their growing up ages. But I find that a lot of the women will date somebody solely on their financial situations. They want to hang out at the golf clubs to meet a gentleman. They want this gentleman to take them out to all the fancy restaurants and places and fancy trips and all that. And there's nothing wrong with that if he's willing to do all that. But then they get the dollar signs in their eyes, and this man may be falling in love with them and have given them beautiful presents and shown them such a good time. But then the woman decides, I'm not going to end up in this financial position again. So she then says to the gentleman, well, if you really want to marry me, I want a $5 million life insurance policy. What? Okay, so there are the women out there who are just looking for wealth and somebody to take care of them because maybe they've never worked, but there are other ways to make a living that you don't need to be in the corporate world, and we've talked about that before. So this is what men in their 50s are attracted to, and I need to read my notes that I wrote myself because I did do some of research on this one. Oh, let me back up. I met my husband when I was 49, I believe, 48 or 49. We met through business. And we didn't date. We were business associates. And I didn't know he was getting a divorce, and he didn't know I was getting a divorce. Our divorces had nothing whatsoever to do with each other. So we ended up getting married. I was 50 years old. And now I've been married 27 years to this wonderful man, and our 27th anniversary is coming up in April. Now, my other two marriages, I say I stayed too long at the party because I was only with them for 14 years, and I really wasn't even living with them for a whole 14 years. I stayed way too long. It was really bad for me and for my children. So I am not in favor of staying in bad marriages. However, I'm happily married now, and love comes around, not necessarily when you're looking for it. It just comes into your life because suddenly you're a happier person because you're getting your happiness from within yourself, not somebody else. So, in the 20s and the 30s, men are looking for somebody who's younger. They're going through that crisis that we talked about last week. And most likely in their 50s, they've already been married, hopefully once, maybe twice. And they know what they wanted and what wasn't in their marriage, or what they thought they wanted and wasn't in their marriage. So, when you're in your 20s and 30s, your hormones are bubbling over. So you're really looking for somebody who's very attractive, and maybe you haven't been married. So you're looking for somebody who's attractive and loving and lovey-dovey, and you want to have a wonderful sex life, and you want to have children. So you want somebody who can make pretty babies with you, but you're also trying to build your career. And now your wife is pregnant, and she's got her belly out to here with your cute little baby that's going to be born. And you are a naughty guy because you are looking every time you take her out to dinner. You're looking at the younger women and seeing which one has the low-cut dress on and the cute little butt. So they're these kids in their 20s and 30s when they get married. Sometimes they don't grow up. Now, I'm not saying every man is like that, but this often happens and it often leads to divorce. So the older man, after he's probably been married, I would say, they're looking for somebody who is honest about what their desires in life are, what they're interested in life. And it goes all the way from, I've built my own family, I don't want to have any more children. Maybe the man does, because maybe he didn't have any children. Maybe he doesn't have custody of his children. So oftentimes they look for somebody who is still of childbearing age, and that's older and older in today's world. Somebody, there's a famous model, she was married to Seal. I can't think of her name. She said she was willing to have another baby at 50, and she's got 4 other kids. So you can have babies in any age. My daughter had one at 40 and one at 44. So that's wonderful. I'm too old. I have my children. Thank you. I love my grandchildren. But older men sometimes want to start another family for 2 reasons. They want to be with their children they had in a previous marriage are now adults, or that he doesn't have custody of them, so he doesn't see them because the wife is remarried and that built that family. So he does look for a younger woman. But it's not the average. That's special occasions that people do that. But a man is looking for some woman who is honest about her desires too. And you have to be honest with each other and not play games. Don't lie about what you want, because that's not going to have a strong relationship built between the two of you. And a man in his 50s is also looking for somebody who's confident and independent. And that means that she should keep her friends and she could go out to dinner with them once in a while for a girls' night out when he goes to play poker with the guys, or he has a business dinner that he's got to work late and she doesn't have a career, so she has girlfriends that she wants to see. He likes that. And he also wants somebody who's still, even if she's also in her 50s, and this applies to 60s, 70s, and 80s, this man is also looking for somebody who still wants to seek new experiences and adventures. He wants somebody who would like to travel, even if it's just taking it around the country road trip, or maybe he wants to fly to Europe and show her every single country in Europe, from Italy to Czechoslovakia. It would be a wonderful, fun trip. So men and women need to have these same desires and figure out what they want to do with the rest of their lives. Because most of these people who get married at a later age or decide to live together and have a monogamous relationship want the same kind of feelings and desires as they do. So they also want somebody who's intelligent, and a woman wants somebody who's intelligent. And that means, are they still working, or are they interested in what's going on in the world? Do they engage with other people? Are they open-minded to learning new things? Do they want to explore a new hobby? Do they want to take up golf or tennis or paddleball now? And they want to continue doing fun things that maybe their wife likes to do that he's never done before. That could be pickleball. It could be golf. We used to golf together all the time. And we weren't really fabulous golfers, but we'd get another couple out there or some business person that we used to do business with, and we'd reminisce and have dinner together afterwards. There's all sorts of things you can do. Maybe you're into art together and you didn't know that one person was very interested in Impressionism, but now you met this man who really loves this new modern art, and you could go to art shows together. You should be looking for somebody who's learned from their previous relationships. So maybe you were a man who got into the habit of always finding a reason to go have a business dinner and stay away from home. A lot of people during business times when you're building your company and all do have to go have business dinners because maybe somebody's come in from out of town and you only have so long during the day to talk to them, make some plans, and you need to go seal the deal over dinner and celebrate. Or maybe you have to go to conventions or seminars, things like that. And now that you're older and there are no kids at home, maybe you can go on some of these business trips your husband might like to take you on, and you can go shopping during the day or go visit a museum during the day, and he says he will have his nights free so he can take you to dinner. Or maybe there's another couple doing the same thing. So you have to accept what each life is for the individual and enjoy it, not do it and begrudge the person any time alone with you. So you need to ask questions. And that's one of the big things is you need to communicate. I would never suggest to somebody 50 and above to decide they're going to get married in 2 months. You need to get to know these people because as you age, you have other problems. People become ill. It becomes difficult. You can't always go out to dinner. Maybe your finances are going to change. Now, I know a lot of couples, when they're older, they don't get married. And there's one reason they do this. Some of the people, I don't know anybody. Well, actually, I do. Maybe they were so committed to the other person, they just can't think about putting a wedding ring on. I don't know. Maybe they like that independence and the sexiness of saying, oh, I have a live-in lover. Who knows why people do different things? No. Quite frankly, I told my husband I'd be his mistress forever because I didn't want to get married. I did not want to get remarried. And it was too painful. And I thought my kids would think I was nuts, quite frankly. Well, they met him and they liked him very much. And he was a very wonderful stepfather to both my children. But I didn't want to get married. And there was no other reason except I had bad marriages. But I gave in and we had a lovely Episcopal priest marry us. And it was very loving. And I told you we've been married for 27 years now. So there's different reasons, though. If you're not of a certain economic level, it might be better for you not to get married. You have to think about finances. You need to think about every part of your life when you remarry. One of them is finances. It might be better if you've discovered each other in some 55 plus area where people are moving to now. It might be better for you to live together because one, you can share the mortgage, you can share all the other expenses. But if you're living off of Social Security, if you get married, you're going to lose your Social Security. So you'll lose it if the other person dies. I don't know exactly how that works, but it seems to me you should check it out. Somebody told me that the other day, and I can't see that it could be quite right. But that's the excuse a lot of people give. So, as I say, there's lots of things that you want to look at before you discover these new relationships that you want to make permanent. Now, what do women want in a man? Well, they want men who are confident and comfortable in their own skin and can talk to them and hold up a conversation, have interesting thoughts. And women, of course, want chemistry. They want that little sexual excitement going on. If you don't have any kind of chemistry together, you better not be getting married. It depends on your age, but if you don't think your soon-to-be mate is good-looking, handsome, your female person is pretty, beautiful, you have to have some kind of chemical attraction to each other if you're going to make this a lasting relationship. And a woman wants a man who's positive, not that he's always saying, oh my God, it was so horrible at the office today, and this guy was a jerk, and I don't know how I'm going to survive this, and I hate my car. I want to go get a new car, and I don't want to go to the golf club and play with those 3 other guys now. They're just a bunch of jerks. Nobody wants to be around somebody who's a downer all the time. Or one of my pet peeves is a man who hurts himself. And I don't mean hurts themselves really badly. I mean a guy who tears off a hangnail or he bumps his shin on a bed post and gets a bruise on his knee, something like this. This happened to me when I was on a business trip and I was waiting downstairs in the car. Our driver was ready to take us to the airport. This guy didn't come. And I kept calling on my cell phone. We're going to miss our airplane home. I want to be on that airplane. Such a wuss. You know, don't be like that. No woman likes it. A woman likes a man who's charming and will take care of her and take care of himself and doesn't complain about the little hangnail. Now, if you're really ill, that's another thing. And the woman better be remembering her vows of sickness and in health. And that's a difficult one because you may be losing the one you love. But even the man should be able to do the reverse and take care of the woman. It's hard to find the mate that's absolutely perfect for you, but you want to make a list of what you value most in them. And that is the most important thing, I believe, is that you're compatible and have the same desires in life. And if you have children from another marriage, you want to be sure that the children don't hate the person that you're thinking of making your mate. And those of you out there who have children and are thinking of remarrying young, you better be sure that the man likes your children. And that means that they're accepting, they're not trying to replace a man as the father or a woman as the mother when their mothers or fathers are still living. You're combining families. Now, I never had to do that because my 2 husbands never had children, the 2 after my first husband. My husband was a wonderful stepfather and still is. And I think it had a lot to do with not having children of his own. And he has been very generous with them and taken them on trips and done all sorts of things with them. So it's been a wonderful relationship. And I'm going to read you a little list that I found. And I don't agree with all these, but before I wrap up the show, I want you to just listen to this list that somebody made. A woman wants a man who is confident, they have chemistry with, they're a positive person, charming, opening cars and doors and pulling your chair out, being polite. There's nothing wrong with that. Saying thank you when you fix dinner for them or bring them a drink. They can open up and be vulnerable too and tell them the woman what's bothering them. Like, oh, I just heard my mother or my father was very ill. I've got to go back and see them. I don't know if I'll see them after that. I may be losing them. They want you to be vulnerable and caring. Obviously, they want to be attractive, but they want somebody who's stable, who's had a stable job no matter what it is. If they own their own business, if they're a corporate person, if they're the president or the manager or just one of the worker people, they want you to be stable, and they want you to be emotionally present when you need some help. They want you to be there with them. If you're crying because a girlfriend is very ill, they want you to be present and understand. They should be protective with you, and they should be passionate and tell you all the time that they love you, that you're beautiful. They should be accepting of your faults, like champagne makes me burp. Something like that. You know, you don't have people that come into your life that don't have any fallacies. Just don't drink the champagne so fast. They want you to be independent, and they want you to be equal to them in your intellect and every other way. And most of all, they'd like you to have a sense of humor. If you can't find a way to laugh with your mate, you're in big, big trouble. So that's it for finding the love of your life. I told you I was very lucky, very happy. And I just want to tell you that there's a lot of sadness in the world right now, and particularly when you get to be in this age group of 50 and above. We are blessed to be here on earth and have good health. I've lost so many friends, and none of them actually from COVID. It's from the age, finding illnesses that they've contracted some way, or heart problems, cancer, different things like that, dementia, Alzheimer's. It's a very sad time, but you can't walk around all the time being sad, because that cuts your life short too. And there's many things you want to enjoy and love. My rock is God. And without God, I can't survive. So I urge you to become spiritual in some regard. I am not critical of what you believe. I tell you what I believe. And I want you to do that. And I want you to dig deep in yourself. And particularly if it's been raining and snowing all over, I want you to go outside and get that happiness that's really there, buried by your heart, and take it out and look at the flowers that are now blooming, because it is springtime, and that is life. And don't ever forget it. We are blessed to be here at this age. One thing I want you to do is watch the television or get on the internet and look up the tidal pool in Washington, D.C., and see the cherry blossoms that the Japanese people sent to us and were planted many years ago. They're at their prime peak now. It is I want to say a sea, a heaven of pink cherry blossoms. It's not to be missed. So try to find a picture on the internet, and that will make you happy, and see the butterflies and the little flowers that are coming out for springtime. Be happy. Don't worry. Give them over to God. Thank you for joining me today, and I want you to remember these words: cherish yesterday, dream tomorrow, and live today.